So, as usual, we will kick off with business and immigration law. This is a proud presentation of Mr. Ramesh Khurana, who is the Chief Attorney at Law at the Khurana Law Firm, located in the heart of Gaithersburg, Maryland. The moderator here is Attorney Kenneth Haber from Boyd's, Maryland. This week, Attorney Haber questions Attorney Khurana about the loss of passport. Let's take a look.
Hello, my name's Kenneth Haber. I'm a former Assistant United States Attorney and a former Senior Attorney in the Office of Inspector General of the United States Department of Health and Human Services. With me today is Ramesh Khurana. Mr. Khurana is an attorney who I believe personally has excellent credentials in immigration law. He's helped me personally, my wife, Latina, come over and get her citizenship successfully. And he is very knowledgeable, and he's here on the Capitol Forum, and he's going to answer some of our questions. Welcome, Ramesh.
Thank you, Ken, and I appreciate very nice introduction to me.
Well, it's a true introduction.
Thank you so much.
You know, once when I was in Spain, I had somebody steal my bag, and my wallet was in it, of course, and had to do various things. Fortunately, my passport and my wife's passport were in my pants pocket, my front pants pocket. But it gets you to think about what happens if you lose your passport in a foreign country. What do you have to do, sir?
You know, Ken, you are 100% right. Sometimes we are very careful in safekeeping of our important and precious documents, especially like passports, and when you are undertaking an international travel. But unfortunately, it does happen that you lose your passports, and this is the very unfortunate situation, because without passport, you just cannot undertake any international travel. You are just stuck. So first thing you would like to do is to file a police report, because any passport which with a US visa, or if it is a US passport, that might be misused by the person who finds it.
Absolutely.
So just go ahead and call the police station, follow the procedure of the country where you are stuck, in Spain or wherever you are, and just have the report recorded there.
Then what are you supposed to do? What's the best thing?
You know, first of all, this is the first step, because you have to give an evidence whenever you have to apply for a new passport, because it is lost. And then you should remember, if there was a visa file in that particular passport, if a person is not having a US passport, or sometimes what happens is a person has two passports. Old passport when the visa was fixed in particular passport, and then because that passport expired and he got a new passport, let's say from the Indian government, but the visa was issued in the previous. Now it depends which one is lost. But of course, if you do not have a valid passport, then you cannot travel, but at least you have a visa page. But if the passport with a visa page is lost, then you are supposed to be advising the US Embassy or the consulate as well, who issued the US visa. And I always recommend you should provide a copy of the passport if you have it, and also a copy of the visa page which you have it, so that you give as much information as possible to the US consulate, and they can make necessary notings in their records that this passport with this particular visa is lost. Any person may misuse it, any person who gets hold of it, and tomorrow nobody can say that you are hands in glove with that person. Probably you facilitated that person to use this kind of visa. So you got to be very careful.
Well, if you're like in Spain or any place else, and somebody stole your visa, your passport, and you're without a passport, and we did go report the fact that our driver's license were stolen, that sort of thing. We're fortunate to have our passports in my front pocket. But what would somebody do then to get a replacement passport in a foreign country? How can you go anyplace?
Yes, Ken, sure. That's a very good question. Let us say you are in Spain and your US passport is lost. So there is no question of any visa page issued by the US embassy. Maybe visa was issued by other countries if you are traveling through some other countries.
Yes.
So first of all, record the police report, and second thing I would recommend is get in touch with the US consulate wherever you are traveling, and just go and explain the circumstances. Usually there is a form which is called DS-64, whereby you are making a statement like how you lost your passport, and you are making under the oath of perjury, so that you understand the consequences, and no person is taking advantage of the passport and giving passport to somebody else, so that that person can use the passport and travel to the US. And once you have done that, if you have made an application to the US embassy or consulate, so they are going to investigate the matter and issue you another passport, so that you can travel.
It's right on the spot while you're within the
You know,
country.
sir,
You can't leave the country without it.
Like there are US citizenship services which are provided basically round the clock as well.
Good
But-
thing to have a citizenship.
Yes, yes. It's really a privilege. They really
it is.
protect you. Remember, in other episode, we were talking about relinquishment of the U.S. citizenship,
Yes.
and we were talking about the privileges. And when you just relinquish it, you lose all the privileges and you become a state-led person. So here, if you are a U.S. citizen, U.S. consulate or embassy is going to take care of your situation very well.
What do you do if you're holding a Indian passport with a U.S. visa and it's lost or stolen? What are the implications in that?
Okay, so if you are holding an Indian passport with a US visa issued by New Delhi Embassy, for example, and you are right here in Washington DC, so what do you do if your passport is lost? In that kind of situation, you cannot have the replacement visa in the United States. The only thing you can do is you can just wait for your return journey, because when you are leaving the United States, nobody asks you for any kind of US visa because you are exiting. But if you are in Spain and lose your passport, which had a US visa, then of course there is an issue. And let us say that US visa was issued by the US consulate in Spain, then of course you can go and make another application for issuance of visa. And so this is your job to inform the embassy or the consulate which issued the US visa, so that proper recordings are made in the record.
Very good, very good. And you can replace a visa within the United States if you're Indian passport holder who's got a U.S. visa.
There are only limited types of visas which you can replace in the United States, like A's, which are diplomatics, and G's, which are for the international organizations. But if you have been issued an H-1B visa or L-1 visa, you have to go outside the United States. You can go to adjacent countries like Canada and Mexico. And if you have been issued a tourist visa, then of course you have to go back to your own country. But if you want to leave the United States, your visa page or passport is lost, of course, if you are an Indian national, for example, so you will apply for another passport to the Indian embassy in Washington DC if you are in Washington DC area, or if you are in New York, then to the New York consulate. And once the Indian passport is issued, and you don't have to worry about the US visa, because you cannot have it here, and moreover, when you are leaving United States for India, they are not going to ask you your visa.
Whatever happens to your passport when you become deceased?
That's a very good question. Sometimes people really do not pay attention to the fact the person who was holding a US passport is deceased now. I would say the family members should take the responsibility of returning the US passport to the State Department here in Washington DC, and basically they should write a letter and enclose a copy of the death certificate explaining when this person died, so that this passport can be cancelled and returned to the family members.
So they stamp it as canceled and return it, so they'd have it as remembrance.
Yes, yes. If it is a US passport, it will just be cancelled and returned, so that it cannot be misused. That's the main idea.
If I recall right, I had a passport that was 1976 or something like that, 200-year anniversary passport, and when it expired, they stamped it and sent it back. That was a nice courtesy.
Right.
Why can't you replace a visa from within the United States normally?
Yeah, the problem here is, Ken, because most of these visas are issued outside the United States. As in response to one of the previous questions, I had said, let us say a person, he was living in India and he came to the US on H-1B visas. So let us again assume, because there are the 3 consulates and 1 US embassy in New Delhi and Chennai, Hyderabad, and Calcutta and Mumbai, there are consulates. If H-1B was issued by New Delhi embassy, so basically he had to go to the jurisdictional consulate or embassy. He has to go back and get the visa affixed in his passport. It's no longer done from within the USA. But at the same time, if he wants, he can go either to Canada or Mexico, depending upon whatever, because he would need a visa to travel if he is an Indian national. And once he goes to Canada or Mexico after making a prior appointment, then he can apply for grant of a visa. Only visas which can be affixed in the passports are basically for the people who are working for international organizations and they are holding G visas, or else this could be A visas, which are for the diplomats. Otherwise, you have to really go out of the country. So the most important thing, as I said earlier, is whenever you come to know that your passport is lost, and of course visa is also gone, then first thing you do is to ask the police station to record a police report, so that evidence is there that your intent was to immediately inform the law enforcement people. Now, if you are sitting in the United States and you are holding a US passport, now the question is, how do you apply for the US passport? So if you are intending to travel, let us say within about 2 weeks, so first of all you have to file what we call is form 64, DS 64, and on this form you declare the circumstances under which your passport was lost. And then of course there is another form for DS 11, which of course may be needed under certain circumstances, and this is also filed with the US Department of State. And one thing to be remembered is, sometimes people do forget it, if you have already informed the US State Department that you lost your passport, now even if you find it, you cannot reuse it, because
It's on the list.
yeah, now records say that this passport is lost. So don't even try to travel on that passport. So this is very important. And likewise, if you are holding a foreign national passport and visa was issued by the US consulate overseas, and you have already informed the US embassy or consulate that you lost your passport and your visa file was within that passport, now if you find the passport later, you cannot use that passport. So you need to apply another passport and you have to apply for the visa. So these are just words of cautions which people have to keep in their minds.
If you have an Indian passport and you're in United States and you have visas in it for other countries because you wanted to take a trip in other places when you left the United States, can you go to their embassies and get renewed visas, or what's the process on that?
Yeah, you can try, but usually Other countries, visas are given only when you are in your home country.
Oh,
If you are visiting the US, they may basically deny it. They'll say, go back to your country.
so you got to go back before you can.
Yeah, yes, yes.
What's the purpose in that?
Yeah, so because
I see that where you got to wrap up.
they
so.
have access to more databases in the home country. Yes, cameraman is indicating the time is up.
Yes. Well, thank you very, very
Thank
much
you.
for
Appreciate
coming on.
that.
Appreciate it, and I'm sure the viewers also do.
Thank you.